and gentlemen, tonight is Parents' Night for the Powell Valley High School Vikings. This is the final game of the season and gives us the opportunity to recognize the parents of our football players. Their loyalty, dedication, and support for our program is second to none and is a tremendous part of the success of our program. Many thanks. We'd like at this time to introduce the seniors for the Vikings. Number 42, wide receiver, Chad Hartsock. Number 78, defensive tackle, Robert Schlegel. Number 2, wide receiver, Michael Fox. Number 50, starting offensive tackle, Andy Kilburn. Number 30, starting linebacker, Clint Barker. Number 21, starting split end, Sean Lomax. Number 33, two-year starter, linebacker, Matt Cooper. Number 60, two-year starter, linebacker, Ed Rich. Number 73, two-year starter, offensive tackle, defensive end, Patrick Callahan. And number 8, two-year starter, linebacker, Jesse Miller. Number 23, two-year starter, all-district, all-region, all-state in 1990, Stacy Ted Sweeney. Senior cheerleaders for tonight, Lori Davidson, Kim Gardy, Susan Dula. Captains for the Viking team tonight, number 4, John Rafer, number 74, Sean Daniels, number 72, Shane Tucker, and number 79, John Dingus. The captains for the Appalachia Bulldogs, number 20, Sean Pearl, and number 86, Aaron Fife.
Taken at the 43-yard line by the Appalachia Bulldogs. They'll have Ken Sizemore in there at quarterback, 5'8", 149, a junior, number 11. They line up, Adam Kennedy will snap the ball, 5'6", 148, a sophomore. Defensively, Chad Sweeney, all-district from last season, has had an outstanding season. Roston Skaggs starting tonight for the Vikings. And on the left end will be Miller. Number 8, Roston Skaggs on the right side. Miller switches now to the left side. Quickly up to the line of scrimmage. Appalachia will line up in a full house backfield. And in there at quarterback is Sizemore. The Vikings Skaggs jumps across the line of scrimmage. A little anxious on the first play from scrimmage, Jim.
They can't wait to get started out there, looks like, Jim.
The short kickoff for the Vikings gives the Appalachia Bulldogs excellent field position on this first series. Penalty against the Vikings. They will step off 5 yards out to the Bulldogs' 48-yard line. That'll bring up a first down and 5 for the Bulldogs. The Appalachia Bulldogs 86 fight. The tight end to the right side, 6'1", 171. Bulldogs lining up with a full house backfield. 5-6-man defensive front. Here's the give to number 20 out of the backfield, Poole, the ball carrier, to midfield, 49-yard line. Stewart is in there, number 33. So Lamont Radio Stewart, 5'11", 202. They have switched jerseys and changed some numbers out there. So defensively, they will face Stewart, Chris Clark, and Sizemore. Clark is number 12. Clark, or is 32 rather, and Sizemore 12. So we'll get this set up here in a moment. Stewart and Clark in the backfield for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Here's the give over to Stewart, the fullback. Hits the line of scrimmage close to a Bulldogs first down. Number 9, David Evans, 5'10", 149, a junior, also in the backfield along with Clark and Stewart in that full house. On the field, Sizemore, the quarterback, over talking with Coach Turner on the sideline, conferring with Turner and the rest of the coaching staff for the Bulldogs. They will line it up from the Vikings 47. First down of the series for the Bulldogs. We'll get a penalty flag dropped on the play. In the backfield is Stewart. Number 9, Evans, a running back. The official conferring, and it's offside against the Powell Valley Vikings. Fugit is in there now. Fugit, number 9. Stewart will be wearing number 20. Sizemore, number 12, and Clark, number 30 in the backfield. Thank you, Joe. Joe Tony right on top of things. 10-18 to play first quarter. Appalachia moving the ball to the Vikings 42-yard line. 5-man defensive front down. Here's the give over to Stewart, or the fake to Stewart. The handoff around right side to the Powell Valley Vikings. Big gain for the Appalachia Bulldogs. A first down to the Vikings 34-yard line. Jim?
Well, Jim, Vikings have started off with some penalties so far tonight that helped Appalachia down the field so far, but they're moving the ball pretty well.
85 to the sideline for the Vikings. Hall defensively. They will line it up with Clark, number 9, Fugit. Clark, the left half. The fullback is Stewart. Full house backfield for the Bulldogs. Give right up the middle to fullback Stewart to the Vikings 30. A gain of 3 yards on that carry. 9 minutes, 38 seconds to play, first quarter of the football game. Jesse Miller will confer with the Vikings defensive unit, talking with the coach on the sideline, Coach Jones. Number 86, Aaron Fight, tight end, 6', 171 on the right side. 87, the left end, is Estridge, Aaron Estridge. Sizemore, long count at the line from the Vikings 31-yard line. Now they switch in the backfield. Here's the give to Fugit. Fugit off left tackle. Fugit to the 29-yard line. A penalty flag on the play. 63 is Gary Harris, 5'5", 194, a junior for the Bulldogs. Illegal procedure against Appalachia.
Looks like we had an illegal procedure penalty against the Bulldogs that time, Jim.
No score first quarter at Bullitt Park in Big Stone tonight. Capacity crowd. The temperature at game time around 30 degrees. They'll move the ball back to the Vikings 36 on that 5-yard penalty. Stewart, Fugit, and Clark in the backfield. Here's the give over to Clark off left tackle. He is quick in that, hits the line to the 25 of the Powell Valley Vikings. And a gain for Clark on that carry for the Bulldogs, right off left tackle. Excellent block in the line, 12 yards. And that moves the ball to the Vikings 26-yard line. Third and about 3 for the Bulldogs. 8:34 to play in the first quarter. This game for bragging rights, and the Appalachia Bulldogs battling for at least a share of the LPD title with Coburn. Sizemore to the left side, trying to go to the corner, gets some running room down that sideline, finally knocked out of bounds close to a Bulldog first down inside the 20 at the 17-yard line. Another Bulldog first down all the way down to the Powell Valley Vikings 17. Now they're going to mark it back on the 21-yard line. Regardless, it's a first down for the Appalachia Bulldogs. A gain of 8 by Sizemore, the quarterback, on the fake in the line to Clark. They roll to the left side, down that sideline, gets the first down yardage to the 21-yard line. They'll line it up in that full house. Fugit, Clark in the backfield. This is Stewart, the fullback. Stewart up the middle for 4 or 5 yards to the 16-yard line of the Vikings. Ed Rich, Kraft all in there defensively. And also getting up for the Powell Valley Vikings, number 30 across the line is Clint Barker, 5'11", 175, a senior. 7:50 to play first quarter. Appalachia looking at a second down big play here for the Bulldogs.
Yes, it is, Jim. Of course, they're certainly wanting to score on this drive, and Powell Valley defense trying to shut them off at this point.
Near the 15-yard line of the Vikings. Fake, they give over to Clark. Clark hit this time at the line of scrimmage. Great defensive play in there for the Vikings. Barker is there, along with Ed Rich, the middle linebacker. And a loss of 1, 3rd down and 3 to go now for the Bulldogs at the Vikings' 14-yard line. The Vikings defensively getting stiff in that line as the Appalachia Bulldogs on this first possession taking the ball at the 44-yard line. They have moved the ball down on 8 plays to the Vikings 16. Faced with a 3rd and 3. Bulldogs in the white with the blue numerals. Vikings anticipating coming across the line. The fullback, Stewart, Lamont Stewart, 5'11", 202, a senior, hits the line of scrimmage off right tackle. The fullback is stopped at the 13-yard line. A 4th and 2 for the Bulldogs. 74 in there enters the ball game. Sean Daniel, 220, 6 foot, a junior, and out of the ball game for the Powell Valley Vikings is Willis, a sophomore. So Daniel is in that line to shore it up defensively along the line for the Powell Valley Vikings. Appalachia with the ball to give over to off left tackle, and Stewart, the ball carrier, gets the first down for the Appalachia Bulldogs inside the 10-yard line. It's going to be spotted at the 6 for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Pickup of 6 yards on the carry by Stewart. 10 plays on this drive for the Appalachia Bulldogs. The series started back on the 44-yard line. They have moved the ball quickly downfield inside the 10. First and goal for Appalachia. 6 minutes to play first quarter. Here's the give to the fullback, Radio Stewart. Stewart standing up, hits the line of scrimmage, is met by a host of Vikings around the 2 or 3 yard line. Second down and goal for the Bulldogs. Appalachia moving from left to our right on this first series. Short kickoff to the 44. They have moved it to the Powell Valley Vikings 2 on 11 plays. Second and goal. 5 minutes, 39 seconds left here in the first quarter of the ball game. This is the 11th play on this drive. Stewart, Clark, Fugit in the backfield. Sizemore calling signals. The give over to the fullback, Stewart. Stewart hits the line, and he is dropped at the line of scrimmage. Good defensive surge in there for the Powell Valley Vikings.
That was excellent defensive play on the part of the Vikings that time, Jim. He wasn't able to move the ball anywhere on that particular play.
Coach Turner getting a sub in the ball game and a play from the sideline. An important call on this series, 3rd and 3 for Appalachia to our right, moving east to west on this drive. Up to the line of scrimmage, 83 wide to the left side is Smith. Tight is Fight. Running backs, Fugit, Clark, Stewart, the fake, the roll by the quarterback. He's in for a touchdown for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Ken Sizemore, the sophomore. Fine fake to Lamont Radio Stewart, the senior fullback. Also fake the handoff to Clark. Goes in behind the block of Stewart in the line for a touchdown. First score of the ball game on this drive for the Appalachia Bulldogs. They march from the 44-yard line. 12 plays, and Sizemore, the quarterback, from the 3-yard line behind the block of Stewart. 56-yard drive, 4 minutes and 43 seconds to play in the first quarter. 12 plays, 56 yards for the Bulldogs. They will line it up from the 3, going for the 2-point conversion. Here's the quick pitch to Clark. Clark is surrounded by Vikings. He's going to be dropped. The 2-point conversion falls incomplete. 4:43 to play in the first quarter, and we'll return with the Appalachia kickoff. The Bulldogs on top 6-0 early in the first quarter. Ken Sizemore at the controls. Going in from 3 out on that drive. 12 plays, 56 yards, 3-yard TD. The 2-point conversion attempt fails, and the Bulldogs are on top 6-0. Here's the kickoff. It is short, taken by the Vikings at the 33. So the Powell Valley Vikings will have it 1st and 10 from their own 33-yard line. The Vikings trail in this first quarter 6-0. 4 minutes, 39 seconds. And a quick scoring drive for the Appalachia Bulldogs, Jim.
Well, it looks like Appalachia tried a little razzle-dazzle on their kickoff too, Jim. Powell Valley did, so now they have. But both teams have recovered the ball, so Vikings are ready to start seeing if they can score now.
Appalachia will line it up with a 6-man defensive front facing Bryington. A handoff to Owens. Owens off left tackle, 35-36, out to the 37-yard line. Defensively for the Appalachia Bulldogs, Lamont Stewart playing a linebacker. 23, Tom Collins, the tight end defensive captain, calling signals. Number 9 in the middle is Evans, along with Stewart for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Again, they will line it up with a 5-man defensive front. Miller in motion to the right side. The handoff to Owens. Owens hits the line of scrimmage to the 41-yard line. Going to be short of a first by 2. 3rd and 2 for the Powell Valley Vikings. A gain of 4 yards on that carry for Owens. 8 yards for the tailback Owens. Spurlock in there to tight end. And the Powell Valley Vikings will line it up with Johnson, the center, Daniel and Dingus, the guards. The tackles are Callahan and Kilburn. Wide to the left side is Lomax. Again, Miller in motion, this time to the left side. They give over to Owens. Owens to the 42. And he appears to be stopped just inches short of a first down. 23, Collins in there defensively, along with Evans for the Bulldogs. The officials will check it and timeout for a measurement. 2:59 to play in the first quarter. Bulldogs with a touchdown lead, 6-0. Number 3, Thompson, a defensive end, checking the yard marker across the way. Now the chains are going to be stretched out for the first down measurement. The ball at the Powell Valley 43-yard line with 2:59 to play. Excellent drive by the Appalachia Bulldogs after taking the opening kickoff. Upfield in good field position at the 44. It's just short of a first down. 4th down and less than a yard to go for the Vikings, Jim.
Well, it's a tough call. Looks like they're going to go for it, Jim.
Early in the ball game, 4th down, less than a yard. Vikings, their own 42-yard line, up to the line of scrimmage. Bulldogs with a 5-man defensive front. Now they'll send 7 men in the line. Owens, big hole, 45. Owens out to the 48-yard line. First down, Powell Valley Vikings from their own 48-yard line. Excellent call, but the Vikings gets the first down. A pickup of about 8 yards on that carry, or 5 yards for Owens. And Owens, the only Viking in that backfield to touch the football thus far.
Jim, that's a gutsy call, being in your own territory this early in the game, and on 4th down, we got to hand it to him.
Lomax to the near sideline. Spurlock is tight. Again, Miller in motion. Bryington calling signals. 4-man defensive front, middle linebackers up close. The handoff to the fullback Johnson. Midfield, Bulldogs territory, 48-yard line. Pickup of 4 yards by Johnson on this series for the Powell Valley Vikings, 6 plays. Out of the ball game, Spurlock. Back in is Slagle. 2 minutes and 13 seconds left in the first quarter. Bulldogs by 6. This is number 6 coming up for the Vikings. Bryington checks off the line of scrimmage. Here's the handoff over to Owens. Owens off right tackle. Owens for a couple of yards to the Bulldogs' 46-yard line. And the Dogs tough in that line defensively. They will come up with the middle linebackers up close and fight in there defensively.
Jim, it'll be interesting what they try on this 3rd down here, because they really need to convert this if they're going to stay. Of course, we watched them last time run on the 4th down, so they've got 2 downs to make about 4 yards here.
In 9 games for the Vikings, excellent defensive football this season. They have not been able to get their offense rolling to roll up many points and yardage in a football game. Again, Miller in motion on third down. Here's the pitch to Owens, trying to go wide. Owens is hit behind the line of scrimmage. Good defensive play over there by Fight for the Bulldogs. Back to the line of scrimmage, and that's all. That will set up a fourth down for the Powell Valley Vikings and a loss of actually a couple of yards for Owens. Punting situation now for the Vikings, 4th and 4 to go. For the Vikings at the Bulldogs' 47-yard line. The Powell Valley Vikings used 5 plays and a punting situation. Miller, the punter, back on the 41-yard line. Dropping deep, 44 for the Bulldogs will be David Fight, and Clark back on the 16-yard line. Just 34 seconds remains here in the first quarter. There's the snap. The kick is away. Taken downfield by Clark and trying to go outside. 30 out to the 25, 30, 35. And excellent run, 40, 45, out of bounds up around the 48-yard line. 36 yards on that punt for Miller. Fine return for the Appalachia Bulldogs. And on that return all the way out to the 48-yard line. So the Appalachia Bulldogs, again, good field position from their own 48. First scoring drive for the Bulldogs. They started back on the 44. Stewart, and a 34-yard return for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Wide left goes Smith for the Bulldogs. That's the end of the first quarter from Bully Park and Big Stone Gap. The Bulldogs 6, the Vikings nothing. Fine return by Stewart for the Dogs.
It really was, Jim. That was a fine run on his part. This is going to be an important series here for the Vikings. They're going to have to find a way to shut down this Bulldog running attack here if they're going to stay in the ball game.
Estridge and Fight are the tight ends. The quarterback is Sizemore, 48-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Dogs. Here's the delay over to Stewart, the fullback. Fumbles the football. Recovered on the corner by the Powell Valley Vikings. Number 4 is on that loose ball. John Razor coming up with a big turnover at the Appalachia 48-yard line. The fullback, Stewart, hit at the line of scrimmage. Fumbles the football. The turnover gives it over to the Powell Valley Vikings. Now they're going to mark it smack dab on midfield.
Well, that's the kind of defense they're going to have to play, Jim, to stay in this ball game, I believe.
86 calling defensive signals is Aaron Fight. Out of the lineup will be Michael Myers, 247, 6-foot, 9th grader for the Bulldogs. They'll line it up with a 4-man defensive front. Byington calling signals. Again, will send Miller in motion. In the backfield, Johnson and Owens. Fake to Owens. The pass goes complete to the Bulldogs' 44-yard line. Pass complete for 5 yards to Miller. On that corner, Miller that time in motion. And goes down to the Appalachia 44, where it's 2nd down and 5 to go for the Vikings.
That's good execution on the part of the Vikings that time. Well-thrown pass.
In the lineup now for the Powell Valley Vikings will be Morton. Chad Morton, a junior, wide receiver to the right side. Johnson, Owens in the backfield. Here's the pitch to Owens. Owens gets a block. Owens 40. Owens, Appalachia 39-yard line. He is hit on the corner by Thompson, but not before Owens picks up enough for the first down for the Vikings. Fine call on that play for the Vikings. The quick pitch to Owens. Lomax back in the ball game. And a gain of 6 yards for Owens. First down, 10 for the Vikings. Bulldogs 39-yard line. 10:48 to play here in the first half. Appalachia 6, Vikings 0. Handoff to Johnson, the fullback, 35. Johnson to the Bulldogs' 32-yard line. Hit in there defensively for the Appalachia Bulldogs is Mullins. And for the fullback, Jared Johnson, a gain of 7 yards on that carry. Again, Slago back in the ball game along with Morton. Lomax to the sideline. 2nd down for the Vikes. They will send Morton wide to the left side. Slago, the tight end. Running backs, again, Johnson and Owens behind Byington. Appalachia, 5-man defensive front. Here's the turn. They give over to Owens for Owens, breaks a tackle, slips another to the Appalachia 20, maybe inside the 20, near the 19. Now they're going to mark it back on the 20 or 21-yard line. Fine effort by Owens.
Certainly is, Jim. He's running hard out there tonight. Vikings are looking good on this series, blocking well, running well.
For Owens in the lineup, 8 carries now, 35 yards for the Powell Valley Vikings. First down, 10 to go for the Vikes at the Bulldogs' 21-yard line. Up to the line of scrimmage. Callahan, Daniel, Dingus, and Kilburn along that line. Johnson will snap the ball to Bryington. Again, Miller in motion. Handoff to Owens. Slips a tackle at the line of scrimmage and moves the ball for 2 yards to the Bulldogs' 18-yard line. Spurlock, again, out of the ball game, alternating with Spurlock and Lomax. Morton, Slagle back in. 9:30 left here in the first half of the football game. Final game of the regular season for both teams. Appalachia will advance into the playoffs next Saturday, along with the Coburn Blue Knights. Appalachia battling for at least a share of the LPD title tonight with the Blue Knights. 9:14 to play first half. Bulldogs 6, Vikings 0. Bryington with the ball at the 18-yard line. Again, Miller in motion. Fake to the fullback. The give to Owens. Owens running hard to the Bulldogs 16. Pickup of 3 for Owens and the Vikings. That'll bring up a third down situation. 3rd and 5 for the Vikings at the Bulldogs 16-yard line. Cole Knight, Bishop in the ball game along with Lomax for the Vikings. Powell Valley wearing the home blue with the white numerals, white football pants. The Appalachia Bulldogs in the white jerseys with the blue numerals. Appalachia lining up with a 5-man defensive front. Now 24 over covering Lomax in the ball game is Fugit. Johnny Fugit. Lomax will run down the sideline. The give over to Bishop. Bishop trying to break a tackle and is dropped at the line of scrimmage by that big defensive front for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Up front for Appalachia, you've got Russell and Smith, Rutherford and Mabe. Middle linebackers are Fugit and McCray.
Ball is on the 18.
8:04 to play. First half of the ball game. Again, Slagle and Morton conferring with Coach Robbins on the sideline. The Powell Valley Vikings on this series, 6 plays. Driving the ball down to the Appalachia 17. 4th down, 7 to go for the Vikings. They'll line it up from the Bulldogs 18. Now Powell Valley trying to get a timeout on the sideline. Miller in motion. They'll run the play, and a penalty flag is dropped. And now Coach Robbins is on the field trying to get that timeout. We'll get a penalty against the Powell Valley Vikings for delay of game. Over talking with Bryington and the Vikings is Coach Robbins. They'll mark it off 5 yards, and they'll move it back to the Powell Valley or the Appalachia 23-yard line. And conferring along the sideline for the Bulldogs is Fight. We'll get a timeout call, 7:36 to play. Bulldogs 6, the Powell Valley Vikings 0 with 7:36 to play in the first half. 42 attempts, 713 yards, and excellent average per carry coming into the ball game. Not the 4th or 5th rusher this season for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Mike Ham, the leading rusher, 1,766 yards. An outstanding season for the Blue Knights, 271 attempts and 176 per ball game. An outstanding season for Ham. Clark for Appalachia, second leading rusher with over 1,000 yards. Miller in motion. 4th down, 13 to go for the Vikings. Bryington back to pass. Fires the ball. Incomplete, is intended for tight end Spurlock. And covering well for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Fight in the middle. Appalachia holds on downs. They will take it over from their own 22-yard line. The Bulldogs coming up with that big defensive play on 4th and 13. The Appalachia Bulldogs will have it on their own 23-yard line. They lead in this football game 6-0. Ken Sizemore, the quarterback for the Appalachia Bulldogs, coming into the ball game, 34 completions, 82 attempts, 4 interceptions, a total of 681 yards, 8 touchdowns this season for the Bulldogs. 7:31 to play in the first half of the football game. Sizemore drops, and a screen pass. It is caught, and the receiver, Aaron Fight, is down. The tight end goes to the ground. A loss on that screen of 7 yards back on the Bulldogs' 15-yard line. A loss of about 7 yards. 2nd down, 17 to go for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Little screen over to Fight, and Fight Losing footage there and just drops to the ground, and a loss of 7. Second down, 17 to go for the Bulldogs. They will line it up across the 15-yard line. Second down, 17. Running backs are Clark and Stewart, along with Fugit. Hand off to the right side, and the ball carrier out to the 23-yard line. A penalty flag is thrown in a crowd. Jim, a lot of players around the football. The Powell Valley Vikings come up with a loose ball. Fumble occurred, and the Vikings get the ball. And excellent field position on this turnover.
Certainly is, Jim. They're certainly playing opportunistic defense here. Another turnover is going to give them an excellent chance to score here before halftime.
There were about 22 players around that football with the officials, and we had to wait for the call, and it came up. The Powell Valley Vikings come up with a big fumble.
Certainly did. Let's just see what we can do with it.
On the turnover, 23-yard line of the Bulldogs. 6:30 to play, first half. Owens off right tackle. Owens 20, and forward to the Appalachia 18-yard line. Shoestring tackle by Rick Mullins defensively, 5'6", 150 for the Bulldogs. Slago back in the ball game along with Morton. Spurlock and Lomax out of the lineup. Football now at the 18-yard line of the Vikings. The Vikings coming up with a big turnover and an opportunity in the first half. 6 minutes to play. Here's the handoff to Johnson, the fullback. Johnson to the 15, 14, Appalachia 13-yard line. Forward behind the block of Johnson, Daniel, and Callahan in that line. Moves the ball on the ground to the 11-yard line. First down for the Vikings. 6-yard gain for Johnson. 3 carries, 17 yards in this first half for Johnson. For Owens, the tailback, 11 carries, 44 yards so far. Lomax wide to the left side. The tight end is Spurlock. Running backs, Miller, Johnson, and Owens. Again, Miller in motion. Behind Byington, the quarterback. The give over to Owens off left tackle. Owens dives in at the 8-yard line, close to the Bulldogs 7. 5 minutes, 24 seconds in the second quarter. Spurlock out of the ball game. Lomax goes to the sideline. Owens now 46 yards, 12 carries in this first half. The Powell Valley Vikings coming up with that loose ball on the 23-yard line. They've used 4 plays down to the Appalachia 6. The Bulldogs digging in with their backs to the goal line. Byington, here's the pitch to Owens. Big defensive hit on that corner. 44 is there. Fight to drop Owens for a loss back on the 15 or 16-yard line. Spurlock again in the ball game. Third down and 13 now for the Vikings. They need to move the football down to the 2 or 3 yard line for a first down. So a big hit on that corner. Fight came up from the outside linebacker position, dropped Owens for a loss.
That was a good defensive play on Bulldogs' part there, Jim. They had the play covered very well.
To the line of scrimmage, third down, 13 for the Vikings. Lomax 21 wide right. 6-man defensive front, penalty flag on the play. 4:18 to go here in the first half. Officials talking over the call. The penalty against the Vikings offside. The Vikings penalized 5 yards. That will move it back to the Appalachia 19-yard line. Setting up a third down and 17. Third and 17 Vikings. Powell Valley down by a touchdown here in the first half. The Appalachia Bulldogs moved the ball 56 yards, 12 plays, taking the opening kickoff on their own 44-yard line. Sizemore going in for the touchdown. The 2-point conversion attempt failed. That's the scoring here in the first half. Byington drops to pass, fires the ball downfield. It is trapped or caught inside the 10-yard line. Morton is there for the Powell Valley Vikings, and they rule a completion apparently inside the 10 at the 9-yard line.
That was an important catch for the Vikings that time, Jim. That's going to keep them in contention here maybe to get this first down.
Byington drills the ball to Morton. Made a great stab, almost picking the ball up right off the turf. 3:32 to play here in the first half. Vikings, a fourth down inside the 10, 9-yard line. Field goal attempt for Baker. Byington will hold. 54 out there is Greg Baker. There's the snap. The kick is up. The kick is no good. A 25-yard attempt by Baker, wide right. There's timeout. The score remains 6-0. The Appalachia Bulldogs leading the Powell Valley Vikings at Bullet Park. 3:14 left in the first half. Back in 30 seconds on 93 FM.
On the carry, ball to the 34.
The Appalachia Bulldogs. Stewart, the ball carrier, for 14 yards. 34-yard line. First down for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Quick opener and a hard running. Stewart gets the ball out to the 34-yard line. Now the official steps in. We'll get a timeout called on the Bulldogs. 3:06 to play here in the first half. Bulldogs 6, the Vikings nothing. Back in 30 seconds. Out to the 40, and he is upended at the 40-yard line. The ball carrier out for sizable gain of about 6 yards. Second down and 4 to go now for the Bulldogs. They will line up quickly at the line of scrimmage from the 39-yard line. Second down and 4 for the Bulldogs. Here's the fake, the give over to the right, or the quarterback, Sizemore, out of bounds at the 45. Penalty flag, great fake in the line of scrimmage for the quarterback over to Stewart, then a fake to Clark, and Sizemore just keeps the ball knocked out of bounds near the 45-yard line, close to a Bulldogs first down, but a penalty flag was dropped on the sideline. Big number 74 is there, Tony Myers for the Bulldogs. Personal foul call against the Powell Valley Vikings, and this will cost the Vikings. Jesse Miller calling defensive signals, talking with the Vikings Skags on the field. Now the official over talking with Coach Turner and the Appalachia coaching staff. They're going to mark off the penalty against the Vikings, 15 yards to the Powell Valley 40-yard line. 2:34, costly penalty against the Vikings.
Sure is, Jim. Penalties like that hurt you. 15 yards at a time can really eat up a lot of the territory.
Especially with a team ball control, ground-oriented attack of Appalachia.
That's certainly true.
Appalachia with the ball from the Vikings 40-yard line. First down 10, 2:34 to play here in the first half. Bulldogs 6-0. Sizemore in there, quarterback. Running backs are Clark, Stewart, and Fugit. Back to pass, Sizemore getting pressure, fires the ball downfield. It is incomplete, goes out of bounds near the Vikings 18-yard line. Intended for Aaron Fight, the tight end, but the pass out of bounds. That will stop the clock with 2:29 to play. Second down, 10 to go. Thank you, Keith Sinopole. Traveling down to Birmingham next Saturday for the UAB Legion Field. How far? About 10 hours? 9 to 10 hours? 7-hour drive. Second down, 10 to go for the Bulldogs. Penalty flag, Stewart, the fullback, hit at the 39-yard line. The Vikings in there quickly defensively. 72, Tucker there. But a penalty flag on second down and 10. The flag against the Vikings, offside for the Powell Valley Vikings. In the ball game defensively, Matt Cooper tonight, 33, 5'10", 160 senior. Willis, Sweeney, Razor, Roston Skaggs, along with Miller, Rich, Kraft in the middle, Davis, McCoo. The penalty moves the ball to the Vikings 35. And in the ball game thus far for the Powell Valley Vikings now, they have been penalized 3, 4, 5 times. And 45 yards total. 35 yards total. 2 minutes and 28 seconds first half. Second down, 5 for the Bulldogs. Sizemore fakes to the fullback. and Clark the ball carrier. Clark to the 31-yard line of the Vikings, short of a first by 2. 3rd and 2 to go for the Appalachia Bulldogs. 74 running out of the backfield is Myers. They have Stewart and Clark. Radio Lamont Stewart, the fullback, coming into the ball game tonight for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Stewart rushing, trying to pick up some. Stewart with 988 yards for the Bulldogs. 3rd and 2 for Appalachia. 7-man defensive front. Sizemore back to pass on 3rd down. It goes incomplete, but a penalty flag is dropped at the Vikings 16. Over defensively is number 4, John Razor. Razor collides there with Estridge. We'll get a penalty flag dropped to the 18-yard line. Interference called against the Vikings. Again, Powell Valley tightening things up, going downfield fight, but Razor on top of the receiver. And Sizemore going to the air on 3rd and short.
Well, Appalachia's mixing their plays well, running well, throwing well, and Powell Valley's getting penalized, so that moves the ball down the field.
1:41 left here in the first half of the ball game. Bulldogs by a touchdown. Interference call, 15 yards against the Vikings. 6 penalties in the first half of the football game. For the Appalachia Bulldogs, on this, on 2 series, 7 first downs, 6 plays. They have it now inside the 20 at the 15 or 16-yard line. First down, Bulldogs. Here's the fake, the fumble on the play. Sizemore drops on the ball back on the 25-yard line. A fake to Clark, loose ball, and Sizemore drops on the football back on the 24. Second down and about 20 now for the Bulldogs. From the Vikings 24-yard line. Second down, 1:17 left here in the first half. Sizemore, the quarterback, a loss of 10 yards on that fumble recovery. Sizemore checking off at the line of scrimmage. Ken Sizemore, the quarterback, 5'8", 149, a junior. Here's the handoff on the left side. Clark, the ball carrier. Clark to the 18. Clark down to the 15, 14-yard line of the Powell Valley Vikings. Back to the original line of scrimmage. And Appalachia wants timeout. 49 seconds left here in the first half. The Bulldogs with a 6-0 lead, moving the football this time inside the 15. They're going to mark it on the 13-yard line. And on that carry for Clark, 12 carries total here in the first half, or 6 rather, and 46-yard total. So that's for Clark. His usual 46 yards in the first half. We'll be right back in third. 6 carries, 46 yards. Stewart with 9 carries, 38 yards in the first half. The Vikings have been penalized 6 times and 50 yards. So 6 penalties, 50 yards in the first half against the Powell Valley Vikings. 49 seconds. First half, Appalachia inside the 15. Here's Clark, the ball carrier, gets a big hole on the right side. He'll go in to score. Touchdown, Appalachia Bulldogs. Clark off right tackle. Excellent block in the line. Smith and Ray opened a hole for the ball carrier, and he goes in from 13 out. 12-0. The Appalachia Bulldogs leading the Powell Valley Vikings. Appalachia will go for the 2-point conversion. 42 seconds remain here in the first half. 13-yard TD for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Chris Clark, 5'10", 158, just a sophomore. Coming into the ball game tonight, Clark, 156 carries, 1,143 yards. 46 so far here in the first half of the ball game. 42 seconds, a flag on the play. The Bulldogs delay of game. That'll cost them 5. That'll move it back to the 8-yard line. Powell Valley in the first half of the football game with 4 first downs. They trail 12-0. And the Appalachia Bulldogs so far here in the first half with 7 first downs. Stewart, 38 yards, and Sizemore with 7. Quarterback Clark, the leading rusher, with 59 yards, 7 carries. The Bulldogs will line it up for the 2-point conversion from the 8. Before that, they want timeout. Sizemore, the quarterback, steps in. 42 seconds to go. The Bulldogs on top, 12-0. We'll be right back in. Two-touchdown lead over the Powell Valley Vikings first half. 42 seconds left. The Bulldogs will line up for the 2-point conversion from the 8-yard line. Sizemore, the quarterback. Clark, Stewart, Fugit in the backfield. They give over to Stewart, the fullback, and he is hit at the line of scrimmage. 55 in there defensively for the Vikings. Davis. The 2-point conversion attempt, no good for the Appalachia Bulldogs. We'll be back in 30 seconds with the Appalachia kickoff. Bulldogs 12, the Vikings 0. 42 seconds left in the first half. Have beaten the Vikings only twice in the last 10 years in this series, along with 1 tie. But the Vikings trail in the first half of the ball game 12-0. Here's the Bulldogs kickoff. Taken by Owens at the 20. Owens out to the 25, 30, 35. And a good return all the way out to the Vikings' 42-yard line for Owens. Downfield for the Bulldogs fight on that specialty team. 35 seconds left in the first half. The Vikings will have it 1st and 10 from their own 41-yard line. Bryington, the quarterback. Defensively, the Bulldogs will line up with Summers, Smith, Russell, Rutherford, and Mabe along the line. Running backs are Johnson and quarterback sack for the Appalachia Bulldogs. 78 is there defensively. Rick Mullins, a loss of 3 on that play for the Powell Valley Vikings. Loss of 3 back to the 37. 8 seconds left in the first half. Vikings to the line of scrimmage. They'll get off one more play before halftime. Here's the pitch to Owens. Johnson leading the way. Owens 45-yard line, and he is dropped there by fight for the Bulldogs. That's the end of the first half for Bullitt Park in Big Stone Gap. The Appalachia Bulldogs 12, Powell Valley Vikings 0 at halftime. Back in 2 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your halftime entertainment, may we present the Appalachia High School Marching Band.
Back on the 13-yard line, Sweeney to the right of Bishop. The second half getting underway here at Bullitt Park in Big Stone Gap with the Bulldogs on top, 12-0. The Appalachia Bulldogs in their road white jerseys with white football pants and blue numerals, blue helmets. The Powell Valley Vikings in their home blue with the white numerals. End over end, headed for Bishop at the 18, to the left sideline, out to the 30, 35, 40, 45. Midfield, Appalachia territory, all the way out to the 41-yard line to the Bulldogs. The Powell Valley Vikings on that return for Bishop back on the 18-yard line, Joe. And he carries it downfield to the Appalachia Bulldogs 41-yard line. Excellent return, 38 yards for Bishop, opening the third quarter here at Bullitt Park tonight. Running backs are Miller, Johnson, again Miller in motion to the right side, Bryington calling signals. Here's the give to Owens. Owens, big hole left side. Owens dives to the Bulldogs 31-yard line. Gain of 8 yards by Owens, the tailback. Slago back in the ball game along with Morton for the Powell Valley Vikings. 2nd and 2 for the Vikings. After that return by Bishop, the Vikings move the football down to the Bulldogs 33-yard line. Appalachia digging in defensively. Here's the give over to Owens. Owens fumbles the football. A scramble for it. Big pile up back on the 20-yard line, recovered by the Bulldogs. Owens hit at the 25. Coughs up the football, rolls down to the Bulldogs 20, and it is recovered on the 20-yard line. Number 28 is Fugit or Collins around the football. It goes over to the Appalachia Bulldogs. So the Powell Valley Vikings again turning the ball over after moving the football well on this series.
Well, Jim, they've had some critical mistakes here so far in this game with the turnovers and the penalties and so forth. It's really played against them. They're really just going to have to dig in here and try to get this ball back.
Bulldogs will take it over on their own 20-yard line. Sizemore, the quarterback, 5'8", 149 junior. Here's the give over to Clark. Clark at the line of scrimmage. Clark out for 3 yards. Moves the ball to the 23-yard line of the Bulldogs. And defensively, 72 Tucker, 5'11", 195 junior. Jesse Miller calling defensive signal. Second down, 7 for the Bulldogs. 10:31, third quarter. Appalachia on top by 2 TDs in this football game. Up to the line of scrimmage. The running backs are Stewart, Lamont, Radio Stewart in the backfield along with Clark. Here's the handoff to Clark across the 25 out to the 27-yard line. And a third down set up, 3rd and 2 to go for the Bulldogs. In that backfield now is Collins, Dwayne Collins, and he is listed as a guard behind quarterback Sizemore, 5'11", 219, a senior. Sizemore calling signals. Clark, a sophomore, 5'10", 158. And number 70, the fullback, is Collins, Dwayne Collins, behind quarterback Sizemore. Here's the handoff in the backfield and a big defensive hit in there by Kraft. And Clark, the ball carrier, and he's going to be short of a first down. Good defensive play.
Well, Powell Valley has looked good defensively on this series, Jim. Looks like the Bulldogs may have to punt, or either that risk giving the ball up to the Vikings deep in their own territory here.
9 minutes, 19 seconds to go, third quarter. The Powell Valley Vikings will line up with 6 men along that defensive line. A punting situation now for the Dogs, 4th down and 3 to go. The punter is back on the 15, and drifting for the Powell Valley Vikings going back. It is blocked by the Vikings, and the Vikings around the football at the 26 or 27-yard line. The punt blocked by the Powell Valley Vikings. They were rushing 8 men along that line, and a host of Vikings around the football on the 26-yard line. Officials talking with the Bulldogs and the Powell Valley Vikings. It's going to be Vikings ball deep in Appalachia territory on this block punt. The opportunity now for the Powell Valley Vikings down by 2 touchdowns. Officials still talking it over. And the Appalachia Bulldogs will keep the football, apparently. So a change of possession was called on that situation. The Appalachia Bulldogs will have it 1st down and 10. The 4th down punt was blocked by the Powell Valley Vikings. Did someone get a hand on that ball, Joe, or did he just shank the ball off? So apparently one of the Powell Valley players tried to pick up that loose ball. They ruled a fumble at the 26-yard line. The Powell Valley Vikings were rushing 8 men along the line of scrimmage. They blocked the punt by the Appalachia Bulldogs. The ball rolled out for about 5 or 6 yards. Apparently one of the Powell Valley Vikings tried to come up with that loose ball, and it goes over to the Appalachia Bulldogs. That'll give the Bulldogs a 1st down at the 26-yard line. 8 minutes, 49 seconds to play, third quarter. We'll be back in 30 seconds on 93 FM. Trying to advance the football. I believe Barker over there. Anyway, it gives the Bulldogs a 1st down and 10 at the 26-yard line. Collins in there at fullback. Here's the give to, and this time the Vikings are there defensively. And Clark may have been the ball carrier on that play. 32 is in the backfield now for the Chris Clark, the ball carrier, and a loss of 2 yards for Clark. The Powell Valley Vikings coming up with a big defensive play. In the middle is Rich and Kraft for the Vikings. Davis and McCoo up front. Roston Skaggs, left defensive end. On the right side is Miller, the defensive captain. 2nd down, 12 to go for the Bulldogs. Handoff to Clark. Clark at the 25, pickup of 2 yards. That'll bring up a 3rd and 9 to go now for the Appalachia Bulldogs.
Jim, someone just came in and told me they heard the score of that Norton-Thomas Walker game was about 45-0 in the third quarter. Norton.
Oh, my. So the Raiders are pouring it on after that situation came up with an ineligible player and forfeiting 3 ball games. And Thomas Walker, already the champion in that Cumberland district, so they apparently are suffering there tonight at Lawson-Fitchco Stadium. 3rd down, 9 to go for the Bulldogs. Here's the handoff to the ball carriers, Clark, across the 30 to the 31-yard line, and 32 on the program is listed as Chris Clark, the tailback, 5'10", 158. So maybe they changed jerseys at halftime or something, Joe. Earlier, the jersey for Clark was number 30, and now apparently he's wearing number 32. Clark to the sideline for the Appalachia Bulldogs, and a punting situation now for Appalachia. On 4th down and 4 to go, the Vikings will send Bishop back to the 40-yard line. They snap to Babb, the punter, back on the 20-yard line. Big rush for the Powell Valley Vikings. The punt is away. The punter is Sizemore, gets it away down the field, and it is taken by Bishop at the Vikings' 38-yard line, so Powell Valley will go 1st and 10 from their own 38-yard line. 30-yard punt for the Appalachia Bulldogs. The Powell Valley Vikings will have it up around the 38-yard line, trying to get something going offensively in the ball game, down by 2 touchdowns.
Well, the defense for Powell Valley's looked good so far this half, Jim. See what the offense can come up with here, see if they can get some points on the board.
Again, Miller in motion. Bryington long count, 6-man defensive front. They give over to Bishop, the ball carrier. Bishop breaks a tackle, 45, midfield, Appalachia territory at the 48-yard line. Pickup of 12 yards by Bishop, number 20, the running back. 1st down for the Powell Valley Vikings. Slagle back in the ball game along with Morton. 6:33 left here in the 3rd quarter. For the Powell Valley Vikings, that's the 5th 1st down of the ball game. Out of the lineup for the Vikings to the sideline, 21 is Sean Lomax. This time Morton wide to the left side. They'll have Miller, Johnson, and Bishop in the backfield. Miller in motion behind Bryington. Here's the give to the fullback Johnson. Johnson for 2 yards to the Bulldogs' 48. He is hit and stacked up in the middle of the line defensively for the Bulldogs. Summers, Smith, Russell, McCray, and Fugit all in there. The Bulldogs will pull Fugit and McCray, the middle linebackers, up right along the line of scrimmage to actually give the Appalachia Bulldogs a 7, 6, 7, 8-man defensive front. In the middle now, number 3, Fred Thompson, 5'10", 172, a junior. 20 and 24 in that defensive set, Poole and Fugit. Here's the pitch to Bishop. Bishop trying to get outside, cannot. He goes down at the 45-yard line. Pickup of 3 yards by Bishop, the ball carrier. For Bishop, 3 carries, 13 yards in the ball game tonight for the Powell Valley Vikings. And coming across defensively is Thompson to make the stop for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Number 10, Rutherford, a defensive end, talking with his teammates. Number 10, Rutherford calling defensive signals. 5:13 to play in the 3rd quarter. It's a 3rd down and 7 call for the Powell Valley Vikings. 3rd and 7, the Bulldogs again will put 5 men up along that line of scrimmage. The Powell Valley Vikings will send Miller in motion. Miller slowly to the right side. They give over to Bishop. Miller trying to get a block up front, cannot. And Bishop is dropped after a gain of 1 yard. In there for the Appalachia Bulldogs is Russell to make the stop on Bishop. 4th down and 5 for the Vikings.
Well, Jim, it'll be interesting to see what Powell Valley tries here. They're right at their 43, 44-yard line. Looks like they're going to go for it.
Big 4th down call here for the Powell Valley Vikings on 4th and 5. The ball at the Bulldogs' 44-yard line. Appalachia on top, 12-0 at Bullitt Park in Big Stone Gap. Up to the line, Bryington sends Miller in motion. Bryington drops 5 yards, fires the ball downfield for Lomax, incomplete. And back covering for the Bulldogs, Rutherford. Little pressure put on Bryington, the quarterback. The 4th down pass goes incomplete. The Bulldogs will take over at the 44-yard line. Good field position for the Appalachia Bulldogs. 4 minutes and 7 seconds left in the third quarter. Sizemore in there at quarterback. Ken Sizemore, 5'8", 149 junior, coming into the ball game tonight for Sizemore. 34 completions, 82 attempts, 681 yards, 8 touchdowns this season. And for the Bulldogs, Chris Clark with 6 receptions, 214 yards. Long pass downfield for Stewart, the fullback. It goes incomplete. And the Vikings putting pressure on the quarterback Sizemore. 66 coming in defensively is Roland, defensive end, along with Miller. The pass goes incomplete. 2nd down and 10 to go for the Bulldogs. Back in the ball game now is Coffey for the Bulldogs. 4 minutes and 2 seconds left here in the third quarter. 12-0 Bulldogs on top. Those 2 scoring plays for the Bulldogs, 80 yards, 8 plays, and then 12 plays, 56 yards on the first touchdown attempt. Here's Sizemore, fakes the roll to the right side. Sizemore surrounded at the 44-yard line, 46 by Vikings, and 72 is there defensively for Powell Valley Tucker and the host of Vikings across the line to drop the quarterback after a gain of 3 yards. 3rd and 7 to go now for the Bulldogs. 3:39 to play in the third quarter. 24 back in the ball game. Collins for Appalachia. Also 83, Brad Smith, a tight end, back in. Appalachia 4-1 in the district. 7-2 overall coming into the ball game tonight. Now Fugit is in the backfield along with Clark. Here's the give over to Clark. Clark is dropped at the line of scrimmage. Good defensive play. Sweeney coming up for the Vikings. Miller coming across. A 4th down, a loss of 1, 4th and 8 punting situation now for the Bulldogs with 3 minutes and 2 seconds to go.
It's a punting situation, Jim. It'll be interesting to see if they do or not. It looks like they're going to.
And dropping for the Bulldogs back on the 20 or 34-yard line is Sizemore. Greg Bishop, the speedster, back for the Powell Valley Vikings. We've seen Bishop return 3 for touchdowns this season. The punt is high. It hangs, taken by Bishop, 20 out to the 25. Breaks one at the 30, out to the 33-yard line. Downfield for the Bulldogs on that coverage is Collins. Powell Valley will go 1st and 10 from their own 33-yard line. Pound at Clintwood tonight. Rye Cove at Kelly, Hayside, Irvington, Coburn, and St. Paul are open. Thomas Walker at Burton, and one score coming in. The Raiders with a big lead over Thomas Walker at Lawson-Fitchco Stadium. That game should be just about over by now. It started at 7 o'clock. Here's the handoff on the left side. Bishop, the ball carrier, out for a yard or two to the 35-yard line. The Vikings trail by 12 points, 2 touchdowns in this football game. Slagle and Morton are back in. Clock running with 2 minutes to play in the third quarter. Powell Valley does not have a role in the playoffs this year for the first time since 1984. It's a young offensive squad. Miller in motion. Bryington, the quarterback, on the option to the right side. Bryington is cut down at the 35-yard line, across the 35, near the 36. And a 3rd down situation now for the Vikings. Spurlock back in the ball game, the tight end. Also, Lomax is in the lineup now. 1:26 left to play here in the third period. Bulldogs will line it up with Summers, Russell, Smith, Rutherford, and Mabe. Fugit and McCray in the middle. Gibson and Evans outside. Secondary is Fight and Clark. Clark, the free safety. Long count by Bryington. Here's the give over to Miller. Miller's surrounded at the 34-yard line, dropped right there by the Bulldogs. Good defensive hit for Rutherford. Also from the middle, Fugit and McCray came across to drop the runner Miller for a loss, and that'll set up a 4th down situation, Jim.
Well, the Bulldogs have looked good defensively on this series. Powell Valley's going to be forced to punt here.
37 seconds to play in the third quarter at Bullet Park in Big Stone Gap. 6-man defensive rush for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Miller back to punt. gets the snap at the 24-yard line. The kick is away over the head of Fugit. Taken back on the 24-yard line. Fugit upfield, 25, out to the 28, 29-yard line. 17 seconds left in the third quarter. The Bulldogs with the ball. That punt for the Powell Valley Vikings, 47 yards for Miller, puts the Bulldogs back on the 28-yard line. Appalachia with a 12-0 lead over the Powell Valley Vikings.
15-36.
Appalachia will have Sizemore, Stewart, Clark, and a first down for the Bulldogs. And they're going to let the quarter run out. That's the end of the third period from Bullitt Park in Big Stone Gap. The Bulldogs 12, the Powell Valley Vikings 0. Back in 1 minute. The Bulldogs with the ball, first down, 28-yard line. Vikings 5-man defensive front. Sizemore with the ball out to the 35. Sizemore 40, 41, 42-yard line. 13-yard gain by the quarterback Sizemore. Finally hit by Barker, and 32 in there defensively for the Powell Valley Vikings is Roston Skaggs. First down for the Bulldogs at the 42-yard line. For Sizemore, the quarterback, 13 yards on that carry. 11:43 left in the ball game. 86 wide to the near side is Fight. Fight, 6'171" senior. The fullback is Collins. Handoff to number 20 Clark out of the backfield, or the running back is Clark or Stewart. I've changed some of these numbers. He's listed as Sean Poole, so we'll call him Stewart. Fullback Stewart gets the call, and Stewart across the 45 to the 46-yard line. And 68 coming into the football game now for the Vikings, McCoo. 11:05 left to play. Coach Jones talking with Miller on the field. 55 leads the ball game, Davis. McCoo is in the lineup now for Davis. Number 70, Dwayne Collins, running fullback. They mix up in the backfield, and the quarterback Sizemore is dropped at the 46-yard line, a loss of 2. That'll bring up a second down and 6 to go for the Bulldogs. Miller in there defensively, along with McCoo for the Vikings. Third down, 6 for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Appalachia wants timeout. 12-0 our score, Bulldogs. 10:27 to play at Bullitt Park. We'll be back in 1 minute on 93 FM.
There he is.
Clark for the Appalachia Bulldogs breaks 4 tackles in the line all the way down to the Powell Valley Vikings 13-yard line on that carry. A quick opener for Clark. Slips 4 or 5 tackles on his way to a 37-yard gain for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Outstanding run for Clark. Clark breaking 3 and 4 tackles at the line of scrimmage. Slips a big tackle down at the 30 and moves the football inside the 15 all the way down to the Vikings 11-yard line. 37 yards for Clark. The Appalachia Bulldogs first down. 10 minutes to play in the ball game. This is Clark to the corner. Clark goes in for a touchdown. Chris Clark, 5'10", 158 sophomore, goes outside for that deep corner, goes in to score. From 13 out, the Appalachia Bulldogs grab an 18-0 lead with 9:55 left in this football game at Bullitt Park tonight. Temperature in the 30s at kickoff time, at game time, and expected to slip down into the 20s. A 37-yard pickup for Clark, in from 13 out. Clark coming into the ball game tonight for the Appalachia Bulldogs, 1,143 yards this season on 156 attempts. Appalachia will go for the 2-point conversion. They will run with Collins in there again at fullback. Stewart and Clark in the backfield. The fake to Stewart. Here's the roll by Sizemore. Fires in the end zone, incomplete. In the near corner, the pass overthrown out of the end zone. That's the 2-point conversion fails for the Appalachia Bulldogs. 13-yard touchdown run for Clark, 5 plays and 71 yards for the Appalachia Bulldogs. 115 yards in the ball game tonight for Clark, 15 carries, 115 yards. And an outstanding 4 quarters tonight for Chris Clark and the Appalachia Bulldogs. Still 9:55 left in the football game. We'll be back with the Appalachia kickoff in 30 seconds.
Back up, Greg.
Back for the Vikings.
He's not on the ground. Back up, Greg. I want him to take that ball go a long way if he gets under.
There you go, run. Now run. Pit marker.
Pit marker. 5-yard try.
Parker on the return. Ball to the 45-yard line.
Tackle my David.
David Ray on the stop.
The Powell Valley Vikings with the return out to the 45-yard line, 115 yards tonight for Chris Clark. The Appalachia Bulldogs outstanding sophomore. The Powell Valley Vikings down by 3 TDs in the ball game now. To the line of scrimmage at the 45-yard line for Bryington and the Vikings. 9:51 left in this football game. Owens for the Vikings, 15 carries, 54 yards tonight. Long count by Bryington. He will send Miller again in motion, number 8 to the right side. Bryington rolls, being chased by the Bulldogs. Fires the ball complete to Miller on the run to the Bulldogs' 45-yard line. Knocked out of bounds by Mabe for the Bulldogs, close to a Viking first down. 8, 9, 10 yards on that completion to the Bulldogs' 45-yard line. Second down, 1 to go for the Vikings. Morton wide to the left side. Slagle the tight end. 9:18 left in the ball game. The Bulldogs 5-man defensive front. Middle linebackers up close to the line. 25, Jimbo Messer gets the call, and Messer for a first down to the Bulldogs' 35-yard line. First down, 10 for the Powell Valley Vikings. First carry of the ball game for Messer. Gets the first down, moves the football down to the Appalachia 35. 21 checking along the sideline, McCray for the Bulldogs. Back in the lineup now is Lomax for the Powell Valley Vikings. Moving the football to the Bulldogs' 35. Lomax wide to the left side. Spurlock the tight end. Running backs are Messer and again Miller in motion. Bryington long count. Here's the handoff to Messer. Messer this time is hit at the line of scrimmage. Good defensive hit in there for the Dogs. And coming up quickly, Chris Mabe, the cornerback, to drop the runner Messer at the line. Second down, 10 to go for the Powell Valley Vikings. Jim?
Well, Jim, looks like Powell Valley's going to have to do something mighty quick here in the fourth quarter if they're going to stay in this ball game at all. I think the boys are playing real hard out there right now, just trying to move the ball down the field.
8 minutes, 17 seconds left in the ball game. 18-0 Bulldogs. Bryington fakes, rolls left, fires the ball to Morton. Over the head of Morton, interference call on Keith Babb. The free safety Babb is over-covering Morton and will get a penalty against the Appalachia Bulldogs, a 15-yard interference penalty against the Bulldogs. That time Babb on the coverage, the free safety, 6'1", 146 senior. And they'll mark it off from the line of scrimmage. Official conferring on the field right now about the call, and Coach Turner along the sideline also wants to discuss the call. 8 minutes and 9 seconds left in this football game. Official still over talking with the Appalachia sideline. Now they mark off 15 yards against the Bulldogs. Interference to the Bulldogs 20. First down, Powell Valley at the Bulldogs 20-yard line with 8:09 left in the ball game. Powell Valley quickly to the line of scrimmage. John Johnson will snap the ball. Dingus in the line along with Kilburn for the Vikings. Daniel Callahan. In motion again is Miller. Bryington Gives the ball over to Bishop. Bishop is hit behind the line of scrimmage. A loss of 2. Defensively, Sean Poole is there for the Appalachia Bulldogs, and Rutherford to drop Bishop for a loss of 2 back on the 23-yard line. Slago back in the lineup along with Morton for the Vikings. Clock running, 7:49 left in this football game. Lomax to the sideline, 21. Capacity crowd on hand tonight at Bullitt Park in Big Stone. Again, the Vikings, same lineup. Bryington, long count, 6-man defensive rush. Here's the draw to Bishop. Bishop is hit at the 20 after a gain of 3 yards for the running back Bishop. That's a total of 18 yards in the ball game thus far tonight for Greg Bishop. A 3rd down now for the Powell Valley Vikings at the Bulldogs 20. Along the line of scrimmage for the Vikings, they will line up with Johnson, Daniel, Callahan, Dingus. Appalachia with Summers, Smith, Russell, McCray, and Fugit are in the middle. 3rd down and 10 call for Bryington and the Vikes. Bryington drops 10 yards. Pressure on Bryington. Fires the ball. Incomplete for Lomax at the Appalachia 5-yard line. Pressure from Rutherford for the Appalachia Bulldogs, also 67. Summers came in from a defensive tackle, putting pressure on Bryington, the quarterback. Forced the throw to the near sideline. Out of bounds. It will go incomplete. 4th down for the Vikings. 6:54 left in this football game. Pound at Clintwood tonight. Thomas Walker at Burton. Rykov at Kelly. Hasai at Irvington. Thomas Walker in the Cumberland has already won that district at 4-0. In the Black Diamond, Hasai on top at 4-0. Both teams advance to the playoffs next Saturday. Bryington faced with a 4th down and 10 for the Vikings. Big rush coming for the Appalachia Bulldogs. They put pressure on Bryington. Gets the pass to Miller. Complete. 1st down, Powell Valley Vikings. To the far sideline along that Appalachia sideline. They pass complete to Miller. 8 yards. Enough for the 1st down. And 15 yards on that pass completion to Miller. Lomax back in the ball game. 1st down for the Powell Valley Vikings. They have it on the Appalachia 5-yard line. 18-0 Bulldogs. Late in the ball game, 6:36 to play. Bryington moving the ball with Lomax wide to the right side. Running backs again are Johnson and Bishop. Bishop off left tackle. Bishop near the 1 or 2 yard line. Behind the block of Kilburn and Dingus in the line. Gets the ball inside the 5, down to the 2. Lomax out of the ball game. Spurlock comes to the sideline. Slago back in, and Morton will get a timeout call. 6:14 left. The Bulldogs called timeout. The Appalachia Bulldogs up by 3 TDs from the 1-yard line. 18-0 Bulldogs with in the lineup. Morton to the sideline. On this drive for the Powell Valley Vikings, started back on their own 45. They've moved the ball to the Appalachia 2. 8 plays from the 45 down to the Bulldogs 1-yard line. 2nd down for the Vikings. 2nd and 1. Bishop, the ball carrier. Bishop, touchdown, Powell Valley Vikings. Number 20, Greg Bishop, goes in from 1 out. 23 yards in the ball game now for Bishop. The Powell Valley Vikings. First touchdown of the ball game for the Vikings, 18-6, 6:10 left in this ball game. Greg Bishop, behind Daniel and Callahan in that line, goes in to score for the Vikings. Powell Valley with Slagle in the lineup. They'll go for 2 points. Morton wide right. Bryington calling signals. Back to pass. Bryington fires in for the 2-point conversion. It is caught by Morton for the 2 points. The Appalachia Bulldogs 18, Powell Valley Vikings 8 at Bullitt Park. 6:10 left in the ball game. Back with the Vikings kickoff in 30 seconds. $3 for students. And we'll be on the air tomorrow night from CVC at 6 o'clock. Airtime around 5:45. Next Saturday afternoon, UAB and CVC on 93 FM. That'll close out the season for the Cavaliers. Sizemore gives the ball to Stewart up the middle for about 2 yards. Hit by the Vikings. Sweeney in the line along with 73 also defensively is Callahan. Pickup of 2, second down, 8 to go. Miller conferring with Coach Jones along the sideline for the Powell Valley Vikings on that scoring drive. Bishop going in from 1 out, 9 plays, 55 yards. The 2-point conversion good with a pass to Morton in the end zone from Bryington to Morton. Appalachia trying to use up that clock now with 5:12 to play. Appalachia on top, 18-8. Long count by Sizemore, the quarterback. Dwayne Collins, the fullback. The give over to Clark. There goes, 45. Clark first down, out of bounds at the Vikings 41-yard line. Fine run by Clark, gets the Bulldogs first down. And for Clark, 11 yards on that carry, 115 yards. That'll put him up around the 125, 126 mark tonight. 126 yards in the ball game now for Clark. Clark and Stewart in the backfield along with Dwayne Collins for the Bulldogs. They move the chains with that break. Quarterback Sizemore over talking with Coach Turner on the sideline for the Bulldogs. First down, 10 to go for Appalachia at the Vikings 41-yard line. Bulldogs on top by 10, 4:58 to play in this ball game. Appalachia 4-1, tied with Coburn for first in the Lonesome Pine coming into the ballgame. Fine fake by Sizemore, cuts downfield 35. He is finally dropped at the Vikings 32-yard line. Hit in there by the Vikings Miller, the defensive captain, along with 4 Razor coming up. 72 across for the Vikings is Tucker. Pickup of 8 for quarterback Sizemore. Coming back into the ball game now will be Babb for the Bulldogs. 70 hits the sideline. Collins out of the ball game. 83 now, and Brad Smith goes to the sideline. Collins will remain in the lineup. Collins comes over and asks for timeout. 4:24 left in the ball game. Bulldogs 18, Vikings 8 at Bullitt Park in Big Stone Gap. 83, an important defensive challenge here for the Powell Valley Vikings. 4-man defensive front. 4:24 left in the ball game. Ken Sizemore, the quarterback, checks off of the line of scrimmage. Gives the ball over to Clark. Clark off right tackle. A flag is dropped. Clark to the Powell Valley 30-yard line. Enough for the first down. We'll wait and see what they call here. Dwayne Collins, number 70. In there to running back. The penalty. Officials still conferring on the penalty. Procedure call against the Bulldogs. That'll cost them 5. That'll move the ball back to the 35-yard line. Up talking with the official now is Sizemore, the quarterback. Sizemore, junior, 5'8", 149. With great moves in there. Excellent ball handler. And the speed and the ability to check off of the line of scrimmage. Sizemore coming into the ball game. 82 attempts, 34 completions, 4 interceptions, 681 yards for Appalachia, 8 touchdowns this season. Toby Bryington on the other side of the ledger for the Vikings, 66 attempts, 25 completions, 3 touchdowns, 340 yards this season. Collins running fullback. Clark, Stewart in the backfield. Here's the give over to Stewart, 35, Stewart 30, Stewart 25, on his feet 20 at the 18, 17-yard line. First down, Bulldogs behind the block of Mullins and Hopkins in the line. Gets the first down for the Bulldogs. Fine fake and handoff to Stewart. A gain of 20 yards on that carry for Radio Lamont Stewart. Gets the ball down inside the 20 to the 18. Back in the football game will be Mullins, the split in for the Appalachia Bulldogs. Sizemore with the huddle back on the 26. They'll break it to the line of scrimmage. 18. Collins, Stewart, Clark in the backfield. Vikings Digging in at the 18, 3:27 left in the football game. Handoff to Clark up the middle, or this time the ball carrier Stewart again. Stewart gets 3 or 4 yards in that line to the Vikings 11. A gain of 6, 74 coming into the football game now is Sean Daniel. 68 back in the ball game will be listed as Slagle. 55 to the sideline. Raymond Davis and number 1 Kelly Willis out of the ball game. So the Vikings getting that goal line defensive unit on the field. Here's the handoff to Stewart, dropped at the line of scrimmage. Good defensive play in there. Roston Skaggs, a shoestring tackle on Stewart, the fullback. Also Miller right in his face to make sure that Stewart did not break that tackle. No gain. 3rd down for the Appalachia Bulldogs. 2 minutes and 32 seconds left in the ball game. Smith coming back into the game now for the Appalachia Bulldogs. The Bulldogs will have it inside the 15 to the 13-yard line of the Vikings. Powell Valley, which will not have a role in the playoffs for the first time since 1984. The Vikings defensive unit now trying to hold off the Appalachia Bulldogs. Here's the roll by Sizemore. Sizemore hit by Barker. Good one-on-one tackle. Stop made over there by Clint Barker, 5'11", 175, a senior, to drop the quarterback for a loss of 2 yards back on the 17-yard line. That'll bring up a 4th and 7 to go. Coming back into the football game will be Kelly Willis, 6'2", 205 sophomore, and he will replace 74 in that line, Sean Daniel, a 220 junior. Also back in the ball game now for the Appalachia Bulldogs will be number 24, Fugit, a fullback. Fugit and big Dwayne Collins heads for the sideline, number 70. So Fugit is back in there. The original 3 in the backfield has started the ball game tonight for the Bulldogs. A minute 21 to go. Penalty flag dropped. The Bulldogs penalized for delay of game. That'll move the ball back to the 23. That'll bring up a 4th down and 13 situation for the Dogs. 4th and 13.
4th and 7.
Next week, the Appalachia Bulldogs will move on to the playoffs. The Coburn Blue Knights also advancing to the playoffs. And, of course, that Division I berth, all those have been filled now. Division II will include Hayside and Coburn, both battling for a number 1 seed. And the Appalachia Bulldogs to the line of scrimmage. They'll take another 5-yard penalty for delay of game. This will be our final, or now the penalty against the Vikings. So that'll move the ball 5 yards forward to the Vikings goal line. That'll move the ball down to the 16. That'll set up a 4th down and 7 call now for the Bulldogs. 4th and 7, a minute 20 left in the ball game. Stewart, the fullback. Fugit in the backfield along with Clark. Sizemore drops, gets protection, fires over the middle in the end zone, intercepted by the Vikings. Touchback for the Powell Valley Vikings. Barker is there for the interception, or 23 Sweeney around the ball for the interception. They will bring it out to the Vikings 20. A minute 15 left in the ball game. We'll be back in 30 seconds on 93 FM.
Intended for Lomax, incomplete. Lomax, the intended receiver.
Second down for the Vikings. Give over to Bishop. Bishop off the left side for about 3 yards, and big number 58 leading the way up front is Gill. 34 Spurlock back in the ball game along with Sweeney. Slagle hits the sideline. 53 seconds remains in the ball game. 53 seconds to go. 3rd and 7 for the Vikes. They'll spread it out all over the field. There's the drop by Bryington. Downfield for Sweeney. Incomplete. And coming up, number 7, Babb for the Bulldogs. Babb in front of Sweeney. The ball tipped. A little juggling act down at the 40-yard line. It goes incomplete. A 4th for the Vikings. 37 seconds left in the ball game. Again, we want to say hello tonight to former student Mark Lambert, a 1990 graduate of Appalachia High. recuperating after an automobile accident. We want to wish him well. Byington, the quarterback, fires downfield for Sweeney, incomplete. Through the arms of Sweeney, again Babb covering. And they pass just out of the outstretched grab of Sweeney at the 38. So the Appalachia Bulldogs will take over with an 18-8 lead. The Bulldogs now, the co-champions in the Lonesome Pine District with the Coburn Blue Knights, moving on to the playoffs. This will be our final broadcast of the season, regular season, on FM 93. Vikings with a young team, young offensive team, young defensively. They will end their season tonight at home, finishing out with a 3-3 record, 5-5 overall for Coach Phil Robbins and the Vikings. Quarterback Sizemore will just fall on the football back on the 26-yard line. 27 seconds left. 23 to go. The Bulldogs will huddle back on the 35-yard line. The Appalachia Bulldogs will not run another play. 11 seconds left in the ball game. Final score at Bullitt Park with 6 seconds to go. The Appalachia Bulldogs 18, Powell Valley Vikings 8. We'll return with a wrap-up on FM 93 in 2 minutes.
Appalachia Bulldogs 18, and our Vikings 8. Can I say a few words? That's the man with the plans right there. Play with me.
Earlier.